Welcome to this explainer. We're diving straight into a sober, evidence-led strategic briefing based on the latest intelligence from Project 54. Revenue, architecture, engineered. Today, we're analyzing a truly seismic shift in the global energy market, the United Arab Emirates' historic exit from OPEC+. Now, for energy sector B2B leaders, this isn't just another news headline you scroll past. It's a fundamental rewiring of global oil supply. So we're going to strip away the noise today. We'll look at the concrete structural implications, the root causes, and exactly what this means for the oil market going forward. Think of this briefing as your engineering blueprint for the new energy landscape.
Here's the operational schematic for our briefing today. 1. A 6-decade membership ends. 2. Capacity outgrows the quota. 3. The orphaned baseline. And 4. The spare capacity race. Let's get into it.
Section 1. A 6-decade membership ends.
Think about this. After nearly 60 years of coordinated output policy, the cartel's internal math just changed overnight. It is incredibly rare for a major Gulf producer to simply walk away from the table. But that is exactly what went down here. And the sheer speed of execution is wild. On April 28, 2026, the UAE announces its exit. Just 3 days later, on May 1st, it becomes fully effective. By June 7th, OPEC Plus is holding its 41st ministerial meeting entirely without the UAE in the room. This wasn't some drawn-out, agonizing negotiation. It was a clean, rapid break that instantly deleted roughly 3.5 million barrels per day of quota baseline right out of the alliance's arithmetic.
So how was this framed? Well, the UAE oil minister called it a sovereign and strategic choice stemming from its long-term economic vision and steadfast commitment to global energy security. That framing is highly deliberate. UAE officials were absolutely insistent that this was a calculated commercial maneuver, not a political dispute, and definitely not a temper tantrum over spot prices. They basically prioritized their own commercial autonomy over keeping a seat at the table, all while assuring the market that they're still committed to overall stability.
Moving to Section 2, capacity outgrows the quota.
Here's the real core of the mismatch. The UAE faced a strict OPEC Plus quota for March 2026 of just 3.41 million barrels per day. But on the flip side, ADNOC had a massively expanded capacity target to pump 4.85 to 5 million barrels per day by 2027. So the country had literally spent a decade building the physical infrastructure to produce well over 1 million barrels a day more than the alliance would legally let it sell.
$50 to $70 billion. Let that number sink in for a second. That is the staggering estimate from independent analysts of the annual foregone revenue the UAE was just leaving on the table at prevailing prices. When you're a producer with real, paid-for spare barrels sitting right there, you have the absolute least to gain from a system designed to hold those barrels back. For the UAE, the math simply didn't make sense anymore.
The precise metrics really lay it all out. Check out that ADNOC capital expenditure, roughly $150 billion approved for the 2026 to 2030 window. You don't greenlight a $150 billion capital program just to keep the resulting oil locked in the ground. Against a market backdrop where Brent crude was sitting at over $100 a barrel, the financial gravity of having full commercial autonomy eventually outweighed the political gravity of staying in the alliance.
Section 3. The orphaned baseline.
So the UAE walks, and the remaining alliance is suddenly staring at a glaring mathematical problem heading into their June 7th ministerial meeting. 3.5 million barrels a day of quota allocation now sits completely orphaned. There's no member attached to it at all. And it's fascinating how the Saudi-led alliance actually handled this. They didn't redistribute it. They didn't officially retire it either. Instead, their instinct was to buy time, project absolute stability, and act as if no crisis or composition change had even happened. They simply reaffirmed the group's overall production levels through the end of 2026.
But here's the twist. Look at what they were doing at the exact same time. 7 members, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iraq, Kuwait, Kazakhstan, Algeria, and Oman, actually agreed to a June output increase of 188,000 barrels a day. This continued the gradual unwinding of those voluntary cuts from way back in April 2023. So the alliance is simultaneously loosening output to bring more oil to market, while basically pretending that a massive structural hole hasn't just opened up in their baseline math.
Section 4. The spare capacity race.
The UAE's exit fundamentally rewrites the rules for everyone left in OPEC+. The alliance ended up approving a brand new mechanism to reassess the maximum sustainable capacity of every single member between January and September of 2026. Why? To set the new baselines for 2027. It's being pitched as a more transparent, fairer way to dictate who actually gets to pump what. To really grasp why this is a game changer, we need to clearly define what's being measured here. Maximum sustainable capacity is the average maximum a producer can bring online within 90 days and, crucially, hold for a full year. The key takeaway? Provable physical capacity is replacing the negotiated baseline as the new currency of the realm. You can negotiate a baseline over a boardroom table, but it's incredibly difficult to fake your maximum sustainable capacity. You either have the physical barrels flowing or you don't.
And this dynamic perfectly highlights the tension that this new rule creates. Take Saudi Arabia. They maintain a stated capacity of 12 million barrels a day, which implies they have maybe 2 million in spare capacity sitting around. But independent analysts genuinely dispute those figures. In fact, how much spare capacity Saudi Arabia truly has is arguably the single most contested number in this entire exercise. This new assessment mechanism is engineered to finally settle that debate once and for all.
So, what is the concrete commercial read across for B2B energy leaders? It's pretty straightforward. If your future quota is tied directly to demonstrable capacity, you are highly incentivized to build and prove that capacity right now, before the assessment window shuts. This translates to a sustained wave of national oil company investment in drilling and capacity. It signals a boom in the oil field services required to prove that those barrels can actually flow. State energy strategy, not just the spot price, is now heavily steering long-term supply. From here on out, provable capacity dictates the terms.
Which leaves us with one massive, provocative question to ponder. The UAE's departure is a huge marker in the sand. They proved that for a capacity-rich producer, having commercial autonomy beats dealing with a constrained quota. So if that calculation holds true, who follows the UAE next? Could this really be the beginning of a larger fragmentation of coordinated global supply? Thank you for joining this strategic briefing. Keep a very close eye on those capacity investments. They are telling you exactly where the market is going.